Imagine this. You trust someone deeply, only to realize they've been pulling the strings of your emotions, manipulating your every move, and using you to their own advantage. What if I told you this isn't just a rare occurrence? It's more common than you think? Stay with me, because today we're diving into the darkest corners of human psychology, uncovering truths so disturbing you may never see people the same way again. We like to believe that humans are inherently good, that evil is the exception, not the rule. But what if evil is more embedded in human nature than we're willing to admit? Dark psychology isn't just a study of those labeled as criminals or psychopaths. It's a look into the manipulation, deceit, and harm that ordinary people can cause. Today, we're going to expose the hidden tactics of dark psychology, how it's used to exploit, control, and damage, often without us even knowing. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. Ever wonder why villains in movies are often the most fascinating characters? Maybe there's a reason we're so drawn to them. Now back to the real-world villains. Point 1. Manipulation. How it begins. Dark psychology begins innocently enough, with manipulation. This isn't about some grand evil scheme. It often starts small, with someone subtly influencing your thoughts, nudging your behavior in ways you don't notice. Think about the last time someone convinced you to do something, not because you wanted to, but because they made you feel like you had to. That's the foundation, getting under your skin without raising red flags. It's a twisted form of control, and the worst part? The manipulator can be anyone, a friend, a partner, a co-worker, and the deeper you fall into their trap, the more sinister it gets. Just wait until you hear how far they can go to destroy your sense of self. Point 2. Gaslighting. Warping your reality. Have you ever been made to question your own reality? That's gaslighting, and it's a common weapon in dark psychology. The gaslighter makes you doubt your thoughts, your feelings, and eventually, your sanity. It's more than lying. It's a calculated attack on your perception of the world. For instance, they'll tell you you're overreacting, or that never happened. Bit by bit, you lose trust in your own mind, becoming increasingly reliant on the manipulator to guide your reality. Honestly, if gaslighting were an Olympic sport, these people would be taking home gold medals every time, right? But on a serious note, can you imagine what that does to someone? Point 3. Emotional abuse. How they feed off fear. Dark psychology thrives on fear. And fear is not just about physical danger. It's the subtle emotional wounds that tear you apart, piece by piece. These people know how to make you feel powerless, isolated, and desperate for their approval. Their methods are strategic. They know your weaknesses, and they exploit them. But here's the terrifying part. By the time you realize it, you're already too deep. They've turned your emotions into weapons against you. And just when you think it can't get worse, they do something even more diabolical to tighten their grip. The ultimate trick up their sleeve? I'll reveal that in a moment. Point 4. The power of control. Puppet masters in the shadows. The end game for anyone using dark psychology is control. By this stage, they've manipulated, gaslit, and emotionally abused you so thoroughly that they've taken over your mind. You begin to act not out of your own desires, but out of fear or obligation to them. You become their puppet, moved by their strings, because they've crafted a reality where you believe you need them. And here's the terrifying truth. These people don't feel remorse. They feel power. The darker the psychology, the deeper the manipulation goes. So here's a question. What's scarier? That someone could be this evil, or that it could happen to you, and you might never know until it's too late? Point 5. The last tactic, isolation. There's one final stage in dark psychology, isolation. By the time they've worn you down mentally and emotionally, they cut off your escape routes. They alienate you from friends, family, and anyone who could help you see the truth. At this point, you're trapped, psychologically imprisoned, all alone in the mental maze they've created. They want you isolated because it makes you easier to control. It's the ultimate goal of dark psychology, to take away everything, even your sense of self. And what's the scariest part of all? Many of us could be falling into this trap right now, and we wouldn't even realize it until it's too late. How do you spot this early? How do you protect yourself? The truth is, dark psychology is everywhere, and the more you know about it, the better you can protect yourself. If this sounds familiar, or if you think you've encountered something like this, the next step is to understand how these tactics work in relationships, especially with something called love bombing. a tactic that's more common than you might think. Click here to watch my video on it and arm yourself with the knowledge to spot manipulation before it destroys your life. Don't wait until it's too late. Check out my next video and take back control.